5:30. And due to a personal medical issue, Ms. Gilpas has requested to participate by video conference in tonight's closed session. This request is made under the Just Cause provision of the Brown Act. This is Ms. Gilpas' first request of the year. Under the Brown Act, the board must vote on whether to grant Mrs. Gilpas' request. May I have a motion? Motion made by Mr. Jimenez,
I second it.
seconded by Ms. Garcia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Kono, will you please take roll call?
Board President Mercado,
Present?
Vice President Ocampo, Clerk Antonio Jimenez,
Present.
Trustee Guadalupe Gilpis Barrera, Trustee Leticia Garcia.
Present.
Mr. Ocampo and Ms. Gilpis are currently absent.
Thank you, Mr. Koenig. Moving on to item C, the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Havasi, can you please lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance? May I ask the public to please stand? Spotlight, moving on to item 1D, Spotlight. This is an opportunity to feature up to a 3-minute presentation, the positive things that are taking place throughout the district. Do we have any spotlights, Mr. Koenig?
There are no spotlights. Oh, we have one spotlight.
Good afternoon, Board President Mr. Mercado, esteemed board members, Superintendent Mr. Koenig, and cabinet members. My name is Isabel Serrano, and I am an instructional coach at Alisal Community School. My colleague is Ana Cordero, and she is the TOSA for Alisal at the district office. We are addressing you today as representatives of the Professional Development Committee, where we are chairs for the Alisal Teachers Association. As board members of the Alisal Union School District, you have directly or indirectly supported a very important annual event that will take place next week. It will be our 8th annual Great Alisal Teaching Conference. And on behalf of the PD committee, we would like to extend you an invitation to attend the conference, where over 50 certificated staff members will be presenting to other Alisal Union School members.
This is the first in-person event after the pandemic, and it will be a great opportunity for our teachers to reconnect with you. The Great Alisal Teaching Conference, known as GATSI, is a unique professional development event within our district, where we showcase the instructional talent that our teachers have developed. As you are aware, we recently received a Golden Bell Award for the work that has been taking place in the last 8 years. Please join us in this conference if you are able to attend, and it will be next Monday, February 5th, from 3 to 8. Now we have a little present for you, and may we approach you to give you an invitation?
You can give the invitation to our secretary, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Koenig, do we have a translator available? There may be some folks here that did not capture everything, and I would like to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to listen to our statements and the statements of the public.
Let me check that out.
¿Me permites? Por favor, si tenemos aquí en el salón personas que están dificultándose en el inglés, tenemos traductores. Si ustedes quieren pasar a la parte de atrás donde está la señora y utilizarlo, con eso le están interpretando lo que estamos hablando, ¿verdad? En inglés. Y los que necesitan, por favor, con toda confianza.
Gracias. Okay, I move for the adoption of the agenda. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. I need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ocampo. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to public comment concerning items on the open session agenda and or non-agenda items. The guidelines are there will be a 2-minute limit for individuals and a 20-minute limit on total public comments. There is no ceding of one's time to other individuals. Individuals wishing to address the Board of Trustees on open session agenda items and or other items may do so at this time. Starting time, 5:38. The first persons wishing to address the board is Mr. Jorge Rojas.
Good afternoon, Superintendent, President Caro, Board of Trustees, and Cabinet. My name is Jorge Rojas. I am a father of children district, but I am here representing Monterey County Soccer Club as president. We started using Montevilla 2 weeks ago, and ever since we started using, we've been getting complaints from 2 individuals that have been saying that adults are playing there, and also that why don't we go play at the Constitution Soccer Complex? I just want to shed some light on some clarification. First of all, our kids are 100% youth, which are children from your district. Second of all, Constitution is closed for the winter, so we don't have any facilities for our kids. So I've been meeting with Mr. Bassi, and he was gracious enough to help us get Montevilla for our kids, and that's helping. This past weekend, there was complaints that cars were parking on Freedom Parkway, and also that there was a lot of parents going through the enclosed areas that were blocked up in yellow caution tape. I was there this weekend all day, and there was none of that. After I sent out a communication to our parents, I was even there, making sure there were no cars parked in the sidewalk of Freedom Parkway. This is a supervised and organized event where I'm there, and at the end of the day, I stayed and I cleaned up all the trash. I even cleaned up parts of the area of the park that were left from vendors that were selling their ice creams. So I implore the board members to consider this and see if we could work some partnership and see if we could get some more sites for our kids. First, we were playing at Frank Paul School, but because it's an open area, we had adults come and kind of bully our kids and move them to the out of the way of their area. So since we got Montevilla, that's seems a lot safer place where we're able to keep our kids there enclosed and then being supervised. I'm there, or else we have a field commissioner there. So I just wanted to, you know, say if that's something that the district would consider. And then also I saw on the future agenda items about charging community members a fee. By all means, charge the adults if they want to use the facilities, but not the kids, especially kids from your district. I think that should be something not brought up for the agenda and voted on. And if you think about it, these are kids that are part of the school staff, also your administrators, your teachers who have kids in our program. And we have about almost close to 400 kids, so that's about 8,000 community members that are from this district. And we have a recreational competitive program. We have teams that have played at the national level. So right now we're struggling with field spaces for practice, and we were told that we have to wait till after 6 p.m., which we have respectfully been waiting. And I have a meeting with the city, come up with some kind of a way for get our kids to do some practice in the winter. I have also a plan, a blueprint with an engineer trying to develop an indoor facility for our kids. So these are just projects in the works. And I also wanted to get a meeting with the district and talk about some of these projects, which I have talked in the past, but it hasn't been brought up to attention at the board meeting. But I will bring this up at a future agenda and propose this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas. Do we have any more green sheets?
There are no more green sheets.
Oh, you know what? We got here today. We didn't fill one out.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we get our 3 minutes?
We have
today?
no green sheet.
Okay.
No, we had a meeting today, Mr. Agassi, in the morning, so we were gonna address some things that.
Okay, if you can go ahead and grab a green sheet
Okay.
and fill that out, please.
Sure, we can do that.
Normally, you know, we do start at 5:30, but since there is no one else wishing to speak, this time it will be granted.
Did you see the weather out there? People are there like crazy.
Yes, but we're all here and we are very respectful of everyone's time.
I agree. I appreciate it. Anybody have a pen I can borrow?
If I read this correctly, I have Mr. Guerra wishing to speak to the board. Go ahead.
Thank you, board members. I'm representing Montevilla community. And we had a little issue with the soccer league that they had the past couple weeks. And I got exhibits here. I got pictures and of the parking, of the misuse of the park, how they opened the park on the park when the park is closed. We've had people come in and out, people drinking there, people throwing the garbage, things like that. I live on the other side of Verona. I got a phone call and I went down there and I saw it for myself. Had all the members take pictures. We got them all. These are all for you guys. These are copies for you. If I can leave them with you, you guys can take a look at it. We're not making this up. You can't make this up. They just reseeded the grass and these individuals took down the stakes and the caution tape and didn't care. So all the money they invested in that, they just ruined. They threw a little soccer game. They not only played on the Alisal side, sir, where the elementary school is, the Montevilla Elementary, they played everywhere else. And they parked everywhere. They blocked driveways for residents that live there. The resident tell them, hey, can you please move your car? And they'd get some verbal interaction. And I told them, don't interact with them. And I had a couple comments today when I had it on the website for Nextdoor. People just say, oh, you should tell them what to do. Call PD, call law enforcement, call code enforcement. We did all that. Nothing happened. They didn't do anything. Nobody came. We don't have enough police officers. So we can't even police our own city. We can't even, my suggestion today, when I talked to Mr. Agassi, God bless him, he gave us a time to let us talk to him in the morning, is why don't the parents step up and organize and get these people to pick up their garbage, talk to them, mentor your own people. And you wouldn't have policing. We only have policing because people don't know how to interact with each other. That's the reason why we need police out here, because then we need somebody on the outside source to tell us how to behave, which is inappropriate.
Okay.
Okay, these exhibits are for you guys. Who do I give them to, sir? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Being there's no more members of the public wishing to address the board, I end this at 5:46. Next, we have B, association comments, the Alice South Teachers Association. Mr. Pastoriza. Thank you. The California School Employees Association, Chapter 577.
Good evening, Mr. Mercado, Board President, Board members, Superintendent and Cabinet members. Tonight I want to express CSA condolence for Apolinario Vivet's family. Apolinario, everybody knows him by Paul. He was the lead maintenance worker, and he works for the district for almost 28 years. And as an employee, I know that he was sick, but even days when he was out sick, the staff used to call him to ask for help, and he didn't have any issues and guiding them. And I really think that he did a lot for Alizal district and also for CSEA. He was the past first vice president for the union. He was union steward. He represents members when they need help. And he was a good guy. He was very quiet, but he had a good heart. And I think he is going to be Alizal district will feel the loss of Apolinario. He was a very special person for me, and I really want to express our condolence for the family and also for the maintenance department. And for the department, I know the January month was a tough month for them because they lost a custodian, Rexy Alejandro, and also Apolinario. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have United Substitute Teachers Union. Moving on to item 3A, presentation, the 2023-24 LCAP mid-year update. Ms. Alvarez.
Good evening, President Mercado, board members, Superintendent Koenig, cabinet, colleagues, and community members. My name is Maria Alvarez, and I'm the Director of Equity for the district. And tonight I will be presenting on the 23-24 LCAP mid-year report. As you can see, what is the LCAP? The LCAP is a 3-year district-level plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. It's our opportunity for ALISAL to share the stories of how and what and why our programs and services are selected to meet their local needs. As you can see, there are 8 state priorities, and they are organized in 3 groups: conditions of learning, student outcome, and engagement. In 2023, the Senate bill passed that added a new requirement for LEAs to present a report on the annual update to the local control and accountability plan, and this plan needs to be presented by February 28th. In this plan, you have resources available to you on the mid-year outcome data related to the metrics, and also the implementation data of all actions identified in our current LCAP. As you can see to the right, there's a cup half full, and we look at this as an opportunity to look at all the great things that we're doing with our LCAP. The budget for 2023-24 is about $3 million, and that is our supplemental and concentration, and this amount is allocated across the LCAP, where we have within our 4 goals, 55 actions can be found in our LCAP. All of you have a packet, the thick packet that looks that in front of you. This is a more detailed report that gives specific actions and a description of the mid-year outcome for each goal, the total funds budgeted, and our mid-year expenses that goes more in detail. Within the plan, you can see some of the actions have not been started yet. They will be, some of them will be starting in the spring. Most of our actions are in progress, and there are some that have been completed already. So I'd like to start with each goal. So the way that the presentation is organized, I'll start with the goal, I'll go over the metrics, and then I'll be giving some highlights. So in goal number 1, ALISAL will implement a structured PLC model to provide all students a rigorous academic program aligned to the state standards and best practices based on academic tiered intervention systems in order to eliminate inequities that limit student success. So within the metrics, as you can see, that can be found within the LCAP, there's a baseline because this the baseline is 2021, and then the desired outcomes are for the end of this year in June, and then you can see where we are mid-year, the updates there. For goal number 1, we use Renaissance for STAR reading, in Spanish also, and we use the Renaissance for STAR math and in Spanish. And you can see mid-year updated reports. I'd like to highlight some of our actions within goal number 1. We have our grade level release model, our PLC model, that releases our certificated teachers about 5 to 6 weeks. They get 1 release day, and the subs go in for them to plan. We have our professional development. We also have para-educators to support TK and kinder classes. We have instructional coaches to support all sites. We have our technology, our one-to-one computers, and we have our college readiness. And as you can see on the, that action, it will be starting in the spring, and Mrs. Garcia will be leading that action. Our goal number 2, ALISAL will provide a strong, integrated, and designated language development program in order to ensure all English learner students develop the listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills to achieve 1 year's growth annually and reclassify by 5th grade. As you can see, it's the metrics that we use are parent surveys, teacher surveys, and we use our LCAP Again, as you can see, we have our baseline, our mid-year update, and our desired outcomes for June of 2024. I'd also like to just do a shout out that our LPAC scores are higher this year, and it's for all the efforts that our classroom teachers and the resources that we have. And here are some other metrics that we use: the California Dashboard, DataQuest, and the School Accountability Report Card. And some highlights: we have our newcomer program. I'm excited that this year we are really looking at the data of our students that are newcomers, and we're revamping and we're working on a plan to adjust to make sure that we're meeting the needs of that group. We also have 6 instructional coaches that are assigned to 2 or 3 schools, and they've been doing a great job supporting those schools. And then we also have our ELD professional development that we have a plan that will be starting in February to support teachers with designated ELD. And goal number 3, ALASAL will provide a comprehensive system of support that promotes social, emotional, behavioral, and physical wellness of all students to flourish and develop skills needed to be competitive in the 21st century learning. As you can see, for the metrics, we use student surveys that will be going out in February to our students. We have parent surveys and also DataQuest. And so a lot of the data will be collected and will be written in the end of the June 2024 as the close of this LCAP. Some highlights in goal number 3, some actions is that we have 2 full-time psychologists at Chavez and Sanchez that are funded through the LCAP. We have our school counselor. We have the Family Resource Center, the AFRCs, as they presented last month. They're doing an awesome job. Our social workers, our sports program, and our multi-tiered system of support, which we contract out with the county behavioral health. And as you can see, all those goals are in progress. And lastly, our goal number 4, ALASAL will continue developing relationships and fostering capacity building opportunities to increase the active engagement of all educational partners, students, parents, staff, and community. Again, the metric is student surveys, DataQuest, and district end of the year average attendance, the ADA. And you can see our baseline and our desired outcomes for the June of 2024. Some highlights: we have a bilingual stipend for approximately 100 of our bilingual teachers, and it's about $5,000 per teacher. The LCAP funds our school assistant principals. We have extra district PDs. We have recruitment and retention of classified units, and also lower class size averages in TK through 3rd grade. I'd like to go over some of our successes. As presented last month, we're very proud of the Golden Bell recipient for professional learning. The monthly instructional learning communities are ILTs that are done once a month. Our professional development committee also provides new teacher academies. And as you heard, February 5th, we have our GATSE, our Good ALASAL Teaching Conference. We also have professional learning communities, and 45 administrators were able to go this year for training. All the departments have outside partnerships. We have our family resources and our social emotional cost that is going very well. Our focus that we're going to be continuing on is our tiered 1 instruction, both academic and social emotional. We are really, with our Super Wednesdays, looking at giving time to our certificated staff to have time to work on common informative assessment through their PLCs. We have coaching model with the district coaches. We have an integration of ViewSonic as an instructional tool. Our after-school support, Saturday and academies, our student engagement, we're really focused on targeting chronic absenteeism. We have our one-way dual immersion and newcomer quality of program. And lastly, designated English language development to support reclassification and 1 year's growth. In front of you, your orange or yellow paper. This is a timeline for the development of this year's LCAP. It'll be for the 2024 to 2027. So as we are closing one LCAP, we're starting a new LCAP. And we are very excited with the possibilities and opportunities that we have as a district. Also, I'd like to highlight that this year we started an LCAP committee, and within that LCAP committee, we have different representatives from different colleagues to be part and to have everybody's voice be heard. And with that, I don't know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. Mr. Ocampo, do you have any questions, comments?
Well, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, I have a lot of questions, but maybe I should pick the two most important ones, I guess. I'm just curious, your college readiness program, I think that was 01. What does that look like for elementary
So
school?
right now, what is being planned is all our sixth graders across the district will be able to go to a university. The school counselors will also be accompanying them on that field trip, giving them the opportunity to see a college campus, and that will be in the spring.
So it takes a form like of a field trip to a university.
It's a field trip, yes.
Basically.
Mhm.
is
So
what
they
it is.
can be part of that and see and
Op- op-
experience being on a college campus.
Open to any student or
All students in sixth grade.
anybody that wants to
Mhm.
go? Oh, okay.
We're hoping that everybody will
Sounds
be able
good.
to
Maybe-
participate.
Maybe it can be expanded a little bit. I mean, that's good, but college readiness in high school is sort of easier to conceptualize. There's no reason why it can't start in the elementary schools, right?
Yeah.
But, developing that kind of mindset. But I guess a field trip is a starting point, The other question was, let's see. Oh, the newcomer program, I think that was goal 2. I remember that previously there was some talk about some concerns with the program and the outcomes not being maybe what we wish them to be. So it's my understanding that there's been some changes, hopefully with the idea of getting better outcomes. Can you talk about what changes have occurred?
So we are working on a plan for next year, and we are looking at the data and looking at the structures and the scheduling of the day, and also training for the teacher. And so there's a lot encompassed in that question. So I hope that maybe at a future date, I would be able to come in and sort of present that plan.
So there's a plan, it's sort of in development.
It's in
process.
development right now,
It's
yes.
not, you're working on it. not-
I'm working on it right now, yes.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what it looks like, and hopefully we can, have, better outcomes for our students. Also, I was wondering, as I looked through the information, I know we must do wraparound services, right?
Yes.
Because most schools do. But I didn't see any mention of wraparound services. I'm assuming wraparound services would be maybe for tier 3, possibly.
That is correct.
with
Most
more-
of the wraparound services are in goal number 3.
Well, number 3, can
Mhm.
you kind of describe who all is involved in wraparound services?
I can answer that.
Okay.
So we have different directors in the Ed Services Division that oversee projects. So that actually lives in Ms. Garcia's department, so the People
Oh.
Personnel Services.
Mhm.
And what it looks like right now is through the cost process, just to start understanding what services the students need. And as they go up to the tiers, if there's special education, there's one pathway for them. And if they're our tier supports, then the cost process continues with the different plans that they have for the students when they're going into any kind of supports. So we have our 3 social workers that came on board in around November that are working with Ms. Garcia so that they can case manage all the students that are getting those wraparound supports and then really collect the data.
You mentioned, I think you said what was the word you used?
So
Cost?
the cost, I'm sorry,
what is-
we speak
what-
in acronyms like that. It's the coordination of services team.
I'm assuming in wraparound, you would have like maybe the teacher, the parent, the counselor, the social worker, a lot of people involved, I'm assuming. That.
So yeah, so if it has to go through an SST, then we'll start including the parent. When we start with the cost process or there's a referral, then it'll be those experts that come to the table. So there's different people that, like the social worker, the counselor, the assistant principal, the principal, and if we need anybody else from other of our experts.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you so much.
There's a glossary on the back that I included this time for abbreviations. So if, if you see something, cost is there.
Oh, yeah, we love those abbreviations, I tell you. Okay.
Mr. Jimenez, do you have any questions or comments at this time?
And thank you for the information.
Mrs. Garcia, any questions or comments?
I have a few, so for the following LCAP, are the priorities going to stay the same? Are there still going to be 8 priorities or?
Yes, it will stay the same.
So the priorities are going to stay the
Mhm.
same? Oh, okay.
Mhm.
And, so is there anywhere in here?
The
like-
actions may be updated, but the goals also too, we're looking at, instead of having 4 goals, we're proposing 5 goals this year. So, but the 8 priorities will stay the same.
Is there anything on here like for GATE? I think we had a couple of parents reach out to us about perhaps reviewing or reviving the gifted and talented education. Because there are those students in our schools that would definitely qualify for a program like the GATE. Sorry, I'm not speaking into the microphone. Is there anything in your LCAP that addresses GATE students? Go ahead.
So currently there is not, Ms. Garcia. I think if that's an interest of our community, then we would hope to see it in the parent surveys, hope to see it in all our LCAP meetings. So that process will begin. Yes, the 8 priorities will remain the same because it's a state requirement. We are looking at the current data that we have and the new requirements that will be coming up in our next presentation with Dr. Hernandez. So that'll change some of our goals and actions, and then whatever the public or our community is saying that their needs. So I'm hoping that if that is a need for GATE, through that process, even though we do provide a lot of enrichment in our after school and hopefully now with our Proposition 28, when it includes the integration of art. So there's a lot of enrichment that's provided. But if we hope to see that some of that interest is there because we don't have the categorical funding for GATE anymore, it would have to live through our LCAP.
Mhm. Okay, and then when you talk about student surveys, are we talking about students in 3rd through 6th grade?
That is correct.
Okay, just, I want to make sure. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that would
Yes.
have been. But, and also like, so I read through these while I was at my home and I was wondering about, so just help me to understand. So like, where you said estimated actuals, like the first interim, I'm looking specifically at school assistant principals or school assistant principals, right? Assistant principals. I'm wondering, so the estimated actuals right now are 2,049,415. And the revised budget says 2,105,000, 78. Are we getting close to needing more money in that? Is that the way you read this? How
No,
does it
what
start?
happens is that a lot of the money is encumbered already. So the money has already been put aside. So
We're not
we're
going
going
to
to
need to
yeah.
use a budget revision
Right.
for that.
Those are the estimated expenses based on already expended funds, which are actuals, and the obligated money, which is encumbered. So that's what we're expecting to spend this year.
So what you see there is what we've already spent, and most of it has already been set aside. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, because I was going, okay, are we getting close to
Yeah.
being over? Let's see, did I have any other questions? No, I think you did a very good presentation. It was well thought of and I liked all your handouts. I appreciate that people don't realize how much work this takes, especially with this, with your calendar. It just sets in motion. Everything starts early and you're gonna have to get out there and, to do activities for the parents so they understand LCAP and give their input. It's a big process. So thank you for taking that on, all your people that are working on the LCAP. It's a big one. Thank you for
is.
that.
Thank you.
Ms. Alvarez, how do you engage our parents, or how do you like prepare our parents and the community to understand the LCAP process?
We do a lot through our DLAC. We do a lot of unpacking the LCAP and answering questions. We have our stakeholder meetings that are going to start next week for 2 weeks, where principals there's a stakeholder meeting number 1, and those will be pushed out to the school sites, and all schools will have the same presentation and gather input, and then all the input will be brought back to the district, where district leaders will start seeing the trends. I also am meeting, as you can see, tomorrow, February 1st, Building Healthy Communities. They're an integral part of our community, so we're going to be meeting to brainstorm ideas of how we can involve more parents in the process and understanding the LCAP, and hopefully they will be invited to our next DLAC they have some ideas of engagement for parents. And stakeholder meeting number 2, we're really going to start unpacking for next year's LCAP and hopefully getting the surveys to parents. The other item that we're going to do this year is we're going to chunk and chew. I love the term that Ms. Anso uses, is that we're going to, instead of giving the whole survey to teachers, we're going to give them part of the survey in like a 3-part series. Like we're going to do this year's LCAP questions to get the rest of the data. And then we're going to do another survey to look at next year, so that way it's not so long for them, and hopefully they take more time on answering those questions.
Is it possible if you could give the board a copy of when all the school sites are going to be having their own
Definitely, yes, I
meetings?
can do that.
Thank you.
Yes,
And great presentation, by the way.
thank you.
I really like the having a timeline.
Yes.
So I appreciate that very much. Any other questions? I think we're done.
Thank
with
you.
This one, thank you. Moving on to presentation B, California School Dashboard 2023, Part 2. Dr. Hernandez.
Good evening, President Mercado, board members, Mr. Koenig, colleagues and community members present. Back in December, I came and presented to you some information related to the upcoming release to the public of the 2023 California Dashboard, which took place December 15th. At that time, I gave you some information so you would know what to expect when that became public. So tonight, I'll be sharing with you the outcome of that public release that took place then. This year, in 2023, the state reinstated the colors on the dashboard that represent the change that occurred as displayed or reported when comparing the 2021-22 school year with the 2022-23. And it allowed us to see whatever change in terms of growth occurred between one year and the next. And as mentioned earlier by Ms. Alvarez and Ms. Anso, the dashboard connects to those priorities that were mentioned, the 8 priorities, that are also required as part of the local control accountability plan. So we have indicators that must be reviewed in order to determine actions that are going to be included in the LCAP, addressing those areas that are reported on the dashboard. So here you see a comparison from the first time the dashboard was public in the fall of 2017 to this last one. Though I indicated colors for fall 2022, I just put those there for reference as we did not get a color 5x5 indicator report in the fall of 2022 because they just provided us a status, which is for ELA, the state reported Alice low or an orange. It would have been the equivalent of an orange. In math, orange. In ELD or EL progress, yellow. And in suspensions, orange. And in chronic absenteeism, a red. The red would be the lowest color achievable. The blue would be the highest color. Depending on the indicator, a red would be, for example, if there are too many suspensions, you would get a very high, meaning that you're in the red because you have too many suspensions, whereas you can get a very high score in ELA, and it would be blue because you have a high percentage of students scoring at met or exceeded based on the state test. This year, so as you can see the comparison comparing 22 to 23, ELA remained at low in orange. There was an improvement in math when going from orange to yellow. There was an improvement in ELD going from yellow to green. Suspensions remained at low in orange, and chronic absenteeism improved from a red to a yellow. So as discussed earlier during the presentation that was facilitated by Ms. Alvarez, and as Ms. Anso mentioned, we now have new required actions that need to be explicitly called out on the LCAP. And these actions are related to the results that are displayed on the dashboard. So now we need to make sure that if we have 30 or more English learners, that there's language in the LCAP that is called out to support them. We clearly have a goal that is specific to English learners, which is goal number 2, which already addresses that. But next year, we will have to have a specific action for long-term English learners because that will become a new student group reported on the dashboard. The state is adding that as a student group that will be reported for districts, and the performance of students in that student group will be reported. If the district were to be in technical assistance, we would need to call out actions related to that in the LCAP. We would need to call out actions for schools in the LEA with at least 1 red indicator. Number 5, student groups in the LEA with at least 1 red indicator. So number 4 is a school that has it. Number 5 is a specific student group that is in the red. And number 6 would be student groups within any school in the LEA with at least 1 red indicator. I gave you examples in the secondary document that I provided you that give you an idea of what those would look like in more detail. So you can review those with more time. So again, this is how the dashboard displayed. A district, again, chronic absenteeism scored at yellow, suspension rate at orange, English learner progress at green, the English language arts in orange, and math in yellow. For all the local indicators, the basics, implementation of standards, parent and family engagement, the local climate survey, and access to a broad course of study, the district received the standard met, which is based on the presentation provided at the end of last school year as part of our LCAP presentation or closing report to the board. So here's another view of how the state is reporting information. Here are the student groups as a district that were reported for each of the 5 indicators and what specific color was received. As you can see, there are 3 groups that scored, or 3 student groups that reported in red, English learners for language arts, homeless or McKinney-Vento students in the language arts, and students with disabilities reported in the red. The district would have qualified for differentiated assistance had it had any of the student groups or indicators that were at the non-academic level, i.e. suspensions or chronic absenteeism in the red. Since there is only an area where there are reds, in this case, English language arts, the district would not qualify or require differentiated assistance because you need to be in red in both an academic and a non-academic indicator. There are only reds in the academic indicator, in this case, English language arts. The next set of reports are consolidated reports, so you can see the overall picture for each indicator and see the perspective of all the schools for each of the student groups reported. Across the board, you see the groups, all students, then English learners, then homeless, students socioeconomically disadvantaged is the SED, students with disabilities is the SWD, Filipino, Hispanic, white, and then 2 or more races. So if there's a blank, it means that there were not enough students to report for that student group at that site. As you can see, Barden had enough to report for 2 or more races, but no other school had enough. As a district, we had enough to report for Filipino, white, and 2 or more races. But the most significant reported groups are the ELs, the homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities. As an overall, you can see that there's a lot of yellow for the most part, except for students with disabilities, which has quite a few sites scoring at orange and 2 of them scoring at red. Creekside and Sanchez scoring at red for students with disabilities, and Montebella scoring at red for homeless or McKinney-Vento students. The next one is for suspension rates, and you can see that this one varies significantly school to school and for all student groups. But as you can see at the bottom, the row for district, you still see no red student group as a district, no student group reported in red. The next indicator is the English Learner Progress Indicator, which basically reports the percentage of students that achieve one level of growth in terms of their English language development or fluency when comparing their performance on the LPAC 1 year with the previous year, or the previous year with the current year. So in this case, comparing LPAC in 2022 and 2023, and the percentage of students that improved and moved up. For example, moving from level 1 to level 2, the overall level 2 to level 3, 3 to 4, and also any students that obtained a level 4, and even if they didn't reclassify that, they still remained at a level 4, which is the highest overall level to achieve. You can see a good number of the schools scored at a green, which is the second highest level, with 2 of them scored at the blue, the highest performance level possible, and 1 school in the red, and several schools, 3 schools in the orange for this indicator, 1 in yellow. The next one is one you can see quite a bit of red, English language arts, is the area that we recognize will require quite a few actions, as reported earlier, that will need to be called out specifically on the LCAP to be able to address the needs of students in these specific student groups at the LCAP level, and then also mirroring that at the school plan for student achievement, or the single plan for student achievement, the SIPSAS. These will need to be called out as well. So when we look at ELA compared to math, there's definitely more red in ELA. So math shows the fact that overall we saw a better score as a district in math compared to ELA, and it's reflected here in terms of the numbers of student groups and sites that scored a yellow. So again, this is a recap of what I mentioned earlier with regards to the changes and basically highlighting the fact that along with what was reported by Ms. Alvarez earlier and elaborated on by Ms. Anso, we will have to have specific actions called out in the LCAP and in the CIPSAS to address these student groups based on the results on the dashboard that was just reported publicly. I'll entertain any questions you may have.
Mr. Jimenez, do you have any questions at this point? Mrs. Garcia, any questions at this point?
No, just comments. Thank you. This is very thorough. And the colors really do help. How much training is given to the principals for the CIPSAS so that they align their
We-
goals to the LCAP?
Both Ms. Alvarez and I have support meetings that are scheduled throughout the year, and a majority of them will be happening within the next few weeks.
Mhm.
And those are TGIFs or support meetings with principals that occur, where we take them through the parts that from the needs assessment
Mhm.
to review how well those actions, the quality of the implementation of the actions on the CIPSA to address based on evidence, and how to maybe justify changes to those actions for the upcoming cycle. So those will be happening. We've already had a couple, and they continue through the semester until such time we have the updated CIPSAS finalized. But we do have different areas of emphasis for each of the meetings where we talk about specific goals and actions. We talk about the budget, we talk about the metrics, and the results from all the surveys that are required from the demographic, from the academic, from the process, and from the perception data that is all collected.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Campo, questions or comments?
No, no questions.
I'm looking at the chronic absenteeism, page 8. I see the homeless, the Bikino-Vento population and the population with students with disabilities are heavily impacted. So what is the district doing to address, to help those populations?
But I think Ms.
thrive?
Anso will give you details, but we alluded to it indirectly as part of the coordination of services team process, the cost. Many times, absenteeism is a topic that is addressed as is truancy, and we do have a commitment with support from the county as a network that is helping us. As you can see, the overall chronic absenteeism changed in the dashboard comparing 22 to 23. So we are honing in on the data related to progress being made, but we are going directly to specific cases with those wraparound services and the cost process.
And I just wanted to add that last year when we were under differentiated assistance, like Dr. Hernandez mentioned, there was a team that was attending and a meeting with MCOE, and I believe we're still continuing this year. One of the other things, now that it's actually a new requirement in our LCAP for the new cycle starting in 2024, 25, we are required to write an action. So this morning we had a meeting and said, we're just not going to look at our reds in our students with disabilities and our homeless students, but also if you look across the district, most of the schools are in orange. So that's one, if they increase their chronic absenteeism, that can go down into red. So we want to prevent that. So how do we become preventive, a corrective action for the reds, but then preventive for the oranges? So that's something that we have to now, when we come back with our new LCAP, is we can show you this is the actual action we're going to be doing.
That's pretty good. All right, no more questions for me or anyone else. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez.
Thank you.
Our final presentation is item 3C, demographics, enrollment, and boundary change.
Before we get started with this, I just want to give the board a little bit of information on what we're doing. The district is in the process of redrawing school attendance areas. It's been over a decade since the last time. And we want to review the work that we've done with our consultant from SchoolWorks And then after this information is presented to the board, we will conduct meetings at the school sites, and then we'll get the input, and ultimately we will redraw the boundaries. The issue we've got is there are currently vast disparities in attendance and enrollment. We've got over 800 students at Montebella, and with pretty much the same size staff, we've got under 500 students at VRB and around 500 at a couple of other schools. In addition, there's new development that we need to adjust the enrollment at some of our schools so we can accommodate the students who are generated by the CASP. Also, there are future predicted changes in enrollment due to birth rates and other things. So, and then finally, we want to realign our boundaries so that we don't have students having to cross major roads like Williams Road, Constitution Boulevard, Freedom Parkway, to the maximum extent possible. That's not possible with regards to MLK and Sanchez as far as Sanborn goes, but we can redraw the boundaries to eliminate this at other schools. This is going to be a big effort, and so with this, I'll turn it over to Mr. Abbasi.
Good evening. It's wonderful to be with you and to review the work that we've been doing. And so we're going to try to make this as quick and simple as possible and show you the end results here. But we started with a demographic study and again looked at all of the various data involved in enrollment projections, looking at birth data and development activity and how the population is shifting over time. Okay, or can I click it on? No. All right, yeah, so let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so basically, what we're illustrating this evening are the proposed boundary maps based on all the input we've had from your leadership team and the cabinet. And so we'll be taking this out to the community to get some additional feedback and then coming back for the board for approval once a final recommendation is developed. So on this map, again, it's just a map of basically most of the districts, so it just gives you a high-level overview of how the new boundary lines look, and again, some cleaner lines because we're trying to follow some major streets for some of the boundaries. And it also is illustrating for the new development that's going to be coming to the north of Baranda, northwest or northeast of Baranda Road. Those areas are going to be absorbed into Creekside and Steinbeck initially. And then the next slide, again, just is more of a zoomed in map for both the north area, and then the next one shows the south area. So again, just gives a closer level view of the maps, and all of our school sites are shown in gray on these maps. Yeah, this one's the north area, and then this one's the south area. So then our next slide shows the summary of what the enrollment projections would look like. And so again, this is just some high-level information, shows the total enrollment by campus, both currently and over the next 6 years, with the assumptions that these changes that we make only impact our incoming students. If you're already enrolled on a campus, right, you would be able to continue your education at that campus. So we're only impacting the incoming kindergarten students on a campus, along with anyone that is moving into the community. So for those that are currently enrolled, we're not being impacted, so that the changes slowly have an impact over time. And then next slide, we start looking at highlighting the areas that are being impacted by the boundary changes compared to what your current boundaries look at. And so for these maps, we've highlighted in a blue border the areas that have changed from enrolling at one campus to a different campus. So here on our northern part of the district, right, we've highlighted the 3 areas that are changing, so we're not crossing Constitution and better balancing the enrollment between Creekside and Steinbeck. Then the next map, again, shows the same type of information for the southern portion of the district. And again, a lot of smaller boxes on this map for some just, again, some fine tuning to better balance enrollment between the schools and to, where possible, try to keep students from crossing the busier streets. Then on our next slide, and for the rest of the presentation, we have, is that the last one? Okay. In our presentation we're doing for the community, we actually have generated a map for each individual school, so we can focus in for each individual school just its attendance areas and what the minor adjustments were for their boundaries. So again, this is a higher level presentation. We have a much more detailed presentation for the community, so we can get some feedback. And again, any feedback we can also get from the board on if there's concerns with any of these adjustments. Because again, if we need to make some more final adjustments before we come back for a final recommendation, we want all the input we can get so we can have the best outcome for your community. And with that, I'd love to be able to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Ocampo?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any concerns at the moment. I mean, this is the first time I hear about this, but I do like the fact that you're only impacting incoming kindergarten students, obviously, so that, you know, we won't be forcing students to change schools, is my understanding. So that's a good move. I think that's wise, you know, to do that. And I guess the end result, I guess, is so we have better balance in terms of our student populations per school, which makes sense. And then obviously we are looking at, you know, growth at some point, I don't know when, but at some point to the north, and that's got to impact us also. So thank you, but it's just also new. I don't have any that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Jimenez? Mrs. Garcia?
Thank you for the presentation. What's the timeline? What are you looking at timeline?
The projection I generated assumed that for this next coming school year, we would impact our incoming TK and kindergarten students. So we would start in the fall of 24. Again, if we look at the overall projections, right, we're not in a situation where, right, if we don't make this change right now, we're in trouble. But again, the uncertainty is, right, how fast will that development be coming at the community? Our projections overall show a slight decline in enrollment over the next several years. But again, we're just going to have to watch what happens with development. So again, by starting the change this next school year, it takes us 6 years to get a full implementation change, because again, it's only impacting that incoming students. And so by the time we get through 6 years of projections, right, we've gone through all the grade levels. So by starting now, we can take that very soft approach.
What if, like, okay, so if a family has a child that's coming in at TK, but they already have a child that's a 6th grader or a 5th grader, another school, are they grandfathered into the
Right.
school that they?
Students will be the families will be grandfathered. So if there's a kinder
sibling?
student who's coming in now,
Mhm.
and then that student will go through, when that student's in 4th grade, if there's another kinder student, that student will be able to go to the same school. And to answer your first question, Kinder Roundup is starting in 4 weeks. So Kinder Roundup is going to be based on our current attendance boundaries. And we'll make a decision once we're finished with this, for enrolling new students, and that may happen with the beginning of the new school year.
Mm.
But we'll make a decision on that later. The
Yeah.
Kinder Roundup is based on current boundaries.
Got it. Yeah, I'm all for balancing out schools. I mean, I was a principal of a school with 910 students, and you're one person, and here you have some schools with only 500. In fact, there's schools out there that only have 450. Yeah, resources are spread thin when you have mega schools like that. And so I'm all for balancing out schools just like you balance out classrooms. And thank you. You will have, how many meetings do you think you're going to have with parents
We are
to get feedback from them?
we are planning to have 4 meetings at different school sites next week.
Next week already? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Well, you took some of my questions, Ms. Garcia. But I think I do like the fact that you guys are emphasizing and keeping in mind the safety of our students when they're crossing, certain areas of our community or street. So, I think safety, and I can speak on behalf of the board, I think safety is going to be one of our top priorities here. In fact, the number 1 priority, I should say. So, keep that in mind when you guys talk to our community about this. This is very important. And I think our community, will support this once you give them the rationale and the history of this. That hasn't been done in over 10 years. So I think some clarification to our community and some historical background would go a long ways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 5, consent agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Item 4, please. Do we have any board member reports at this time? Mr. Ocampo?
Yeah, just very, very brief. I attended the Celebrating Life event for Gary Carnes. Took place a few days ago over at the, the UFW headquarters. Very, very well attended. I think a little over 100 people were there. All the presenters talked about, all the contributions that Gary has made to this community. And he did serve on our board, I think, for about 3 terms, if I'm not mistaken. So Gary, a month, 2 months before he passed, maybe 3 months, I'm not sure, wrote a book called, the name of his book is called My 40 Years in Salinas. So it talks about his involvement with the community, because he was a community activist, as we all know. So I think that maybe a good way to remember Gary is to pick up his book and read it. I'm going to start reading it. I did buy it, but I haven't started. But I think I will. I think Gary was a good example to all of us, in terms of someone who gave to the community, who was concerned about the community, and I think he was a good example, a good role model. So I think it'd be worthwhile to see what he has to say now that he's passed on. So, thank you.
Mrs. Garcia?
Yeah, I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Mr. Carnes, but I did hear about him, and I'm sure his legacy will live on. And I do want to pick up that book. I had the pleasure of visiting the dual immersion classrooms at VRB. On the 24th, Mr. Koenig was gracious enough to give me an hour of his time, and we walked into different classrooms. I got to see a lot of higher displays, high levels of thinking skills among the students and in bilingual classrooms. I'd like to recognize the classrooms I visited, and I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them, but Mrs. Claudia de Leon's class, Ms. Claudia Quintero, Mrs. Petra del Real, Mrs. Juana Gallegos, Mrs. Nadia Reese, Mrs. Sarah Granger Mineo, Mr. Dieter Zavala, I hope I pronounced Dieter correctly, or Mrs. Nancy Rodriguez, Mrs. Lorena Sanchez Lopez, Mrs. Laura Ortiz, It was a wonderful experience for me to go into classrooms and really look at how the bilingual programs and the activities that they do, how kids respond to the lessons. And it was very nice to see. And I thank you, Mr. Luis Romero, for allowing us to be there and being gracious host, the principal. I also got to see some parent volunteers in the classrooms, and that was nice to see too. And I asked them, well, who are you? And they said, I'm a parent. And what are you doing? Oh, I'm reading with students. It was wonderful to see. I know our district is sending a lot of staff members and perhaps parents too to the CABE conference, CABE, California Association of Bilingual Educators. And so I'm anxious to see what new skills and latest pedagogy our staff and our parents will bring back to enhance the students' skills. It's wonderful that parents and members, like our staff members, get to go to conferences. I think every time I've been to a conference, I bring back something new that I learn and put into practice. On Monday, the 29th, I attended the Monterey County School Boards Association meeting. Our group selected a winner for the 2024 Excellence in Education Award. And yes, they've already been notified, so I'm able to tell you who that winner is. The winner of the 2024 Excellence in Education Award is Special Kids Connect. Now, if you don't know about this program, Special Kids Connect has worked with LSL. I do believe, let's see, who else told me about them, that they have worked with LSL before. And Special Kids Connect develops resources, raises awareness, and provides support to children with disabilities and their families in Monterey County. They were the ones selected, and they will be, their award will be given to them at the annual awards banquet. That awards banquet is still to be determined, but probably in April. I don't know. We don't have the date yet there. And lastly, I'm attending the Masters of Governance program at MCOE, and I'm learning a lot of things, what do's and don'ts of being a board member. Thank you.
Mr. Jimenez? Mr. Koenig, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
Okay, moving on to item 5, consent agenda. Approval of consent agenda, but I believe Mr. Jimenez has a request at this time.
Yeah, before to continue, I will recuse myself from this item, number not 5-8. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the notification. Now I will ask for the motion and then a second.
So move.
A motion made by Mr. Ocampo,
Second it.
seconded by Ms. Garcia. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Motion is 3-0. Moving on to item 6A. Provisional internship permit, PIB, 2023-24 school year. Before, I also believe Mr. Jimenez has a request at this time.
Before we continue, I will recuse myself from this item. It's 6-8.
Thank you. So now I will need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve provisional internship permits for the 23-24 school year.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Garcia, seconded by Mr. Ocampo. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, 6B, action item, variable term waivers for the 23-24 school year. I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Jimenez,
I'll second it.
seconded by Ms. Garcia. Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 4-0. And moving on to item 7, there are future agenda items listed for your viewing. If there's any future agenda items a board member would like to add, you can email Mr. Koenig or add it here as well. Okay, future agenda items are there for reviewing. Next, board meeting is February 21st and so forth. Moving on to item 9, public comments for closed session agenda items only. There will be a 2-minute limit for individuals and a 20-minute limit on total public comments. There is no ceding of one's time to other individuals. Individuals wishing to address the Board of Trustees on closed session agenda items may do so at this time. Starting time, 6:50. Ending times at 6:50. Okay, I now adjourn to closed session at 6:51. And we will be taking a 10-minute break to, closed session will begin promptly at 7:00.